Am I live? Okay, there it goes. Awesome. Hey y'all. Happy Sunday. Good morning. Let me share this real quick. Oops. I didn't mean for it to. Oh, okay. Um, there we go. Okay. Let me go ahead and share this. Nope. I am figuring this out, y'all. I have cross-posted this, so I don't have to share it anymore. I'm learning all the things. So, good morning. We have a busy day today. If you didn't hear, at 3 o'clock we have deacon ordination and installation. And then next Sunday we also have Eternal Vision, a gospel group that we've really enjoyed back with us during the 11 o'clock service. So we hope that you'll come. If you don't come, we'll of course live broadcast it. So, okay. Last week we were talking about, we're still in the answer sessions. So if you are brand new to our church or brand new to our Sunday school small group study, we've been going through the questions that we have about the Bible, about God, about the beginning, about creation, and just kind of tackling some of those questions, and at the very least, I've been trying to just jog your mind a little bit so that you will dive a little bit deeper and know what you believe and why. So last week we were talking about how it was a continuation of the week before, about how there is such a separation of Christ and the schools, Christ and the government, Christ and the world, um, and how it's all in the name of tolerance and a neutral ground. But by negating Christ and religion, we have negated that foundation of being heard, of having an equal standing. So there really is no neutral ground, is what we were talking about the past 2 weeks. And so I was getting ready to pick back up where I had left off in Genesis with Cain and Abel, but then I realized that a few answer sessions ago, I had paused, I had kind of told you guys, oh, well, I'll come back to that, talking about evolution and creationism. Because I couldn't remember what the types of evolution were, and I couldn't remember a couple of the different wordings for those beliefs and ideas. And when I was rewatching the answer sessions, and I realized that I just didn't want to leave it untouched. So this week we're going to talk about evolution and religion. Um, and I think I've said it before in a couple of different answer sessions. I'm not trying to start a debate here. I'm not trying to create controversy. I'm just trying to get you to realize the foundational misbeliefs that you might have, A, and B, that's my opinion. So that there are foundational misbeliefs. So I guess A would be for you to question what your beliefs are and whether you believe them for sound reasons, to know what you believe and why. Um, and I know I say that all the time, that we need to know what we believe and why, but it really is so important, because if we don't, as the Christians that people look to, the ones who are, posting our face everywhere, or, talking about this, that, and the other, if we don't know what we believe and why, it kind of, it's an oxymoron. It makes you an oxymoron. You say, "Oh yeah, I believe in Christ. I believe in Jesus. I go to church." Oh well, why? Well, that's just what I've always done. That just doesn't, it's just not a sound testimony. It's not a sound it just doesn't make sense. You need to know what you believe and why. So here we are. Okay, evolution and religion. If you are brand new, I would encourage you to go to our YouTube page or our website. I'll link them below after this. Or you can just search our church page and just scroll down or hit videos and go back to answer session 1 because we're picking up after I think this is number 7, 8, 6, something like that. So um, I am reading out of the New Answers book 1 by Ken Ham. Ken Ham is the founder of Answers in Genesis, and it's answersingenesis.org. I'll link that below as well. And I've really, 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 really enjoyed just searching through that website. There's so many good questions that are answered, and there's different takes on them as well by different scientists and creationists and all kind of stuff. So if you're unfamiliar with Ken Ham at all, I would really encourage you to go to YouTube and YouTube Ken Ham versus Bill Nye debate. It was a few years ago, and it was really neat. So I'm also reading out of The Lie, also by Ken Ham. But I'm going to start in the New Answers book. So there's a lot that I'm going to read verbatim because I am not a scientist. And I also get very tongue-tied and twisted sometimes. So while I probably could walk you through this on my own, it would be very jumbled. Um, so what I wanted to do first is a couple of answer sessions ago, I talked about evolution and how there was different forms of evolution, like different ideals when it comes to evolution, but I couldn't remember what they were. I could remember the Big Bang, and I couldn't remember anything else. So the Big Bang is called the stellar evolution. Then there is the origin of life or chemical evolution, and then there's common descent or biological evolution. So there's 3 forms of evolution, and I don't even know if people who don't believe in creationism realize that there are 3 forms, or if they jumble them together or not, or if they know what they believe, or even why they know what they believe. But I think it's important for us to know both sides. It's important for us to know what we believe, whether it is evolution or creationism, and then it's also important for us to know what the opposite side believes, because then we are better able to prepare ourselves for what questions will come up. So stellar evolution, the Big Bang, is the most prominent naturalistic view of the origin of the universe. The difference between what the Bible teaches about the origin of the universe and what evolutionists teach can be summed up in the following sentences. The Bible teaches that in the beginning God created, and evolutionists teach in essence that in the beginning nothing became something and exploded. And that's kind of the gist of what the Big Bang is. So, according to Big Bang, our universe is supposed to have suddenly popped into existence and rapidly expanded and given rise to the countless billions of galaxies with their countless billions of stars. In support of the idea that nothing can give rise to the universe, cosmologists argue that quantum mechanics predict that a vacuum can, under some circumstances, give rise to matter. But the problem with this line of reasoning is that a vacuum is not nothing. A vacuum is something. It's a vacuum that can be made to appear or disappear, or as in the case of the Torselian vacuum, is found at the sealed end of a mercury barometer. All logic predicts that if you have nothing, nothing will happen because there's nothing. It's against all known logic and all laws of science to believe that the universe is the product of nothing. This concept is similar to hoping that an empty bank account will suddenly give rise to billions of dollars all on its own. I mean, you can hope, right? However, if we accept, excuse me, that the universe and everything in it came from nothing and also from nowhere, then we have to follow this to its logical conclusion. This means that not only is all the physical material of the universe the product of nothing, but also other things. For example, we're forced to accept that nothing, which if nothing can have no mind, no morals, no conscience, created reason and logic, understanding and comprehension, complex ethical codes, legal systems, a sense of right and wrong, art, music, drama, comedy, literature, dance, and belief systems that include God. These are just a few of the philosophical implications of the Big Bang hypothesis. Sorry, y'all, I'm struggling this morning. So the first is the Big Bang theory, and nothing out of nothing came everything, right? So if you believe that, cool, fine, whatever, I don't care. But I want you to know what you believe and why. Okay, so if that's what you believe, do more research. Know what you're talking about when someone has questions. When I say, so you believe that everything came from nothing? I want you to be able to tell me why. Okay, so form number 2 of evolution is chemical evolution, being the origin of life. It's commonly believed, because it's taught in schools and colleges, that laboratory experiments have proved conclusively that living organisms evolved from non-living chemicals. Many people believe that life has been created in the laboratory by scientists who study chemical evolution. The famous experiment conducted by Stanley Miller in 1953 is often quoted as proof of this. Yet the results of such experiments show nothing of the sort. These experiments, designed as they are by intelligent humans, show that under certain conditions, certain organic compounds can be formed from inorganic compounds. In fact, what the intelligent scientists are actually saying is, if I can just synthesize life in the laboratory, not create life in my household, in a test tube. Now I can create life in the way that God designed, but I can't create life in a test tube. Why? Because I don't have the intelligence needed to be able to do that. Um, So it would make no sense to say that by creating synthesized life, that it proves that there was no intelligence necessary to form life in the beginning. That makes no sense. Okay, moving on. If we look at Miller's experiment, we will see what he did fails to address the evolution of life. He took a mixture of gases, ammonia, hydrogen, methane, and water vapor, and passed an electric current through them. He did this in order to reproduce the effect of lightning passing through a mixture of gases that he thought might have composed the Earth's atmosphere millions of years ago. As a result, he produced a mixture of amino acids. Because amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and proteins are considered to be the building blocks of living systems, Miller's experiment was hailed as proof that life had evolved by chance on the Earth millions of years ago. Here's our problems with this conclusion. 1. There's no proof that the Earth ever had an atmosphere composed of the gases used by Miller in this experiment. Obviously, I don't know what I was about to obviously. Number 2, the next problem is that in Miller's experiment, he was careful to make sure there was no oxygen present. If oxygen was present, then the amino acids would not form. However, if oxygen was absent from the Earth, then there would be no ozone layer. And if there was no ozone layer, the ultraviolet radiation would penetrate the atmosphere and would destroy the amino acids as soon as they were formed. So the dilemma facing the evolutionist can be summed up this way. Amino acids would not form in an atmosphere with oxygen, and amino acids would be destroyed in an atmosphere without oxygen. And obviously, we have oxygen here on Earth, and that's kind of how we live and survive. So okay, number 3. The next problem concerns the so-called handedness of the amino acids. Because of the way that carbon atoms join up with other atoms, amino acids exist in two forms, the right-handed form and the left-handed form. Just as your right hand and left hand are identical in all respects except for their handedness, or which one is your dominant, So the two forms of amino acids are identical except for their handedness. In all living systems, only left-handed amino acids are found. Yet Miller's experiment produced a mixture of right-handed and left-handed amino acids in identical proportions. As only the left-handed ones are used in living systems, this mixture is useless for the evolution of living systems the way we know today. Another major problem for the chemical evolutionist is the origin of the information that's found in living systems. There are various claims about the amount of information that's found in the human genome, but it can be conservatively estimated as being equivalent to a few thousand books, each several hundred pages long. Where did this information come from? Chance did not generate information. This observation caused the late Professor Sir Fred Hoyle and his colleague Professor Chandra of Cardiff University to conclude that the evolutionist is asking us to believe that a tornado can pass through a junkyard and assemble a jumbo jet. And what he's saying there is such complexity to human beings. We have DNA, we have organs, we have organ systems, we have all of these things that compile and form and create organized systems in order to create the organism that you see here. So how did all of this chaos of amino acids and base base, not even proteins yet, because amino acids build proteins, how did these cells, these amino acid cells, form into something organized from something that was not? How did that design happen? You get what I'm saying here? The problem outlined shows that far from creating life in the laboratory, the chemical evolutionists have not shown that living systems arose by chance from non-living chemicals such as the amino acids. Furthermore, the vast amount of information contained in the nucleus of a living cell, by the way, the nucleus is what tells everything else what to do and how to do it. It's the brain of the cell. It shows that living systems could not have evolved from non-living chemicals. The only explanation for the existence of living systems is that they must have been created. There was intelligence behind the way that we were created. If there was more, just a little bit more gravity, we would be crushed. If there was not enough gravity, we would be floating around aimlessly. If there was just a little bit more oxygen, our body wouldn't function right. If there was a little bit less, then our body would not function right. There's just so many little, just minute, y'all, I'm getting tongue-tied. There's so many different things that are just so in our bodies that it just wouldn't make sense for it to have come from chaos. So the third form of evolution is biological evolution or common descent. You probably know this one as Darwinism, that we came from monkeys or apes or whatever you want to call it. Comparative anatomy is the name given to the science that deals with the structure of animals. Comparing the anatomy of one kind of animal with another is supposed to prove descent from a common ancestor. This is often put forward as strong evidence for evolution. However, the science of comparative anatomy can just as easily be used as evidence of creation, as we will see. The bones of a horse are different from our bones, but there is such a similarity that if we are familiar with the human skeleton, we could easily identify and name the bones of a horse. We could do the same if we studied the skeleton of a salamander, a crocodile, a bird, a bat. However, not only are the bones similar, but so also are their anatomical structures, such as the muscles, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the eyes, the lungs, the digestive tract, and so on. This is interpreted by the evolutionists as proof that these various animals are all descended from a common ancestor. One of the classic examples that is often used in biology textbooks to illustrate comparative anatomy is the forelimbs of amphibians, reptiles, humans, birds, bats, and quadrupeds. In the illustration, it can be seen that the forelimbs of all 6 of these different types of creatures have an upper arm bone, the humerus, and 2 lower arm bones, the radius and ulna. However, in the case of the bat, there's only one bone called the radioulna. Evolutionists teach that these structures are said to be homologous or similar when they are similar in structure and origin, but not necessarily in function. Notice how subtly the notions of origins is introduced into the definition. The bat's wing is considered to be homologous to the forelimb of a salamander because it's similar in structure and believed to have the same origin. However, it's not considered to be homologous to the wing of an insect because even though it has the same function, it's not considered to have the same origin. However, the fact that the two structures are similar doesn't really mean that they're derived from a common ancestor. We have to realize that the entire line of reasoning by evolutionists is based upon a single assumption, that the degree of similarity between organisms indicates the degree of supposed relationship of the said organisms, like apes and humans. In other words, it's argued that if animals look alike, then they must be closely related. And if they don't look alike, then they are more distantly related. It's just an assumption. In fact, there's a logical reason to why things look alike. They're created by the same intelligent designer. For example, this is the reason that Toyota and Ford motor vehicles look so much alike. They're built to a common plan. You only have to look at them to realize this. However, the problem with the living world is that in many cases, either explanation, evolution or creation, appears to be logical, and it's often impossible for us to tell which is the more reasonable explanation. This is why it's important for us to understand which worldview we're using to interpret the evidence. I'm going to read that sentence again because that's an important point. It's important for us to understand which worldview, evolution or creationism or something in between, that we're using to interpret the evidence put before us. There's one discovery that appears to make the evolutionary view of descent from a common ancestor look illogical and flawed. This discovery is that structures that appear homologous often develop under the control of genes that are not homologous. And what that's saying is that while we do look similar to apes, they have a different chromosome count. They have different genes that allow them to have different functions than what humans have. So while our structure is homologous, our genes are not. If the structures evolved from the same source, you would expect the same genes to make the structures. The fact that these structures are similar is apparent, but the reason is not because of Darwinian evolution. It's more logical and reasonable to believe in a common creator rather than a common ancestor. I would agree, personally. Many evolutionists readily admit that they have failed to find evidence of the evolution of large structures such as bones and muscles, so instead they argue that they found homology among the complex organic molecules that are found in living systems. One of these is hemoglobin, or the protein that carries oxygen in red blood cells. Well, we also know that every living being has hemoglobin. Why do we know that? Because they have blood, and it's a protein in blood. It doesn't prove that something is akin to the other. It just says that it's living, right? Although this protein is found in nearly all vertebrates, it's also found in some invertebrates such as worms, starfish, clams, and insects, and also in some bacteria. Yet there is no evidence of the evolution of this chemical. In all cases, the same kind of molecule is complete and fully functional. So in other words, we don't have the broken down pieces of hemoglobin. We just have hemoglobin in the blood. And there is no separate molecules of what makes up hemoglobin found. We just have the whole molecule of hemoglobin. If evolution has occurred, it should be possible to map out how hemoglobin evolved, but this cannot be done. To the creationist, however, hemoglobin crops up complete and fully functional because the creator deemed it as part of his plan and created it. So the thing that really makes me be a creationist Even though I would consider myself to be an intelligent person. And what I mean by that is I don't just take anyone's word for my truth. I try to seek out what I believe and why. Um, as far as Darwinism or the common ancestor, is that we don't see the in-betweens. We know about the missing link, is what they call it. That would be somewhere in between a human and an ape. Somewhere that would prove that, hey, there was an ape human ape thing. Um, and that would prove that there was an in between, right? But we don't have that. There are people who have tried to put together different bones to make that, but it's always proven wrong because we still have the ability to break down the compounds in those bones to say, oh, actually, that part right there is a human bone, and that part right there is an ape bone. And we know this because their genes are different. Um, so that's where my logic stands on that count. Um, so in my mind, what I believe and why I believe creationism because the three forms of evolution just don't make sense to me. Um, the most um, the most believable option for me is creationism because the Big Bang Theory. I do not believe that nothing can evolve or form into everything. Everything can't come from nothing. I've never seen something come from nothing. There has to be something there to become something else. That's just logical to me. So I don't believe the Big Bang. Then there's the origin of life, chemicals that somehow without intelligence chemicals formed into life. I don't believe that. I've never seen things form without there being an intelligent design. And what I mean by that is even when it comes to plants, um, we can break down or look in a microscope at the cells of plants, and we know that there is a brain inside of that nucleus. There's a nucleus inside of each cell, and that nucleus has the blueprints to becoming that plant. Um, so there is intelligence in each cell. There is a blueprint. There is an instruction manual. So we've never seen anything formed here on Earth that does not have intelligence behind it. And so I don't believe that chemicals formed into this right here. I can't believe that. I can't believe that intelligence formed from non-intelligence. So that's form 2. Form 3, I just talked about common descent. There is no missing link. I've not seen a missing link. Nobody has discovered anything that links apes to humans or monkeys or whatever else that we structurally look like. They've tried, but they've all been debunked. And the way that they've been debunked is that there are still living, there are still cells to be microscopically evaluated, and they have different genes, they have different chromosomes, they have things that defer them, and so they're obviously not of the same structure. So those are the three evolution forms and why I don't choose to believe in those. I believe it's much more feasible that the intelligence that we behold is a direct reflection or image from our creator because he holds the same design of image. We were created in his image, right? So I just thought it was really important for us to go through that before I moved on with our Bible study, because I had left that kind of untouched. Why do I believe in creationism versus evolution? Um, and I'm not saying that only creationism and evolution are the, excuse me, y'all. I'm not saying that only creationism and evolution. I'm not saying I can't talk, y'all. I'm not saying creationism and evolution are the only ideals as far as where we came from and how we got here, but they are the most prevalent. Then you have the agnostics that don't believe in anything. Um, but I don't believe that's really valid either, because obviously you can't believe in nothing if we're all something. So I guess probably the agnostics believe in the Big Bang because something came from nothing. Anyway, I just wanted to go over what I believe and why. I wanted to jog your brain on what the different forms of evolution are so that you can decide what you believe and why. And again, I'm not trying to create controversy or a debate. I just want you to have that curiosity of, hmm, well, I learned this in school, but did I just listen to what they said and took it as the truth so I could pass the test and then I just adopted that belief system? Or do I know what I believe and why? And I just think that's really important. So I think I'm going to leave it here. That's a lot of information. There's lots of links that I'll be posting below in the comments. I see that we have 3 comments. Can I click these? Good morning, everybody. They were good mornings. Okay, well, let's end with a word of prayer, and then at 11 o'clock, Brother Mark will go live in our fellowship hall, in our sanctuary. So I hope you'll join us. We will share them to all the pages. You still have 30 minutes, so you can get dressed real quick and make it here. We don't care what you wear. There's lots of people who just wear jeans and a t-shirt, and that's a-okay. So, yeah, let's end with a prayer. Lord, I thank you for this day, for everything you blessed us with, for giving us the brains we have to be able to interpret the information in front of us, even though they are differing opinions and differing beliefs, that we can look at each of them and just decide for ourselves to believe whatever we decide to believe. And I thank you that you, in my opinion, give us a perfect path to who you are and what you've done for us. From Adam and Eve creating us to Jesus, the sacrifice that you've made, and the way that you saved our souls. So I just thank you for who you are, what you've done, and Lord, I just ask that you would take Brother Mark, hide him behind your cross, give him the words to say that would accomplish the goal that you have in mind. We love you, Lord. Amen. All right, y'all. Well, I will see you next Sunday, if not before then. And I want to remind you real quick too, I am doing all of the social media announcements, prayer lists. So if you are not friends with me already, please send me a friend request. And if you have any prayer requests, send them to me as well. We have our church group page that's private that we share those on. So that they're not publicly published. And if you have not yet received a phone call from me and you are a church member, you will be getting a phone call from me in the next couple of weeks. I've been making my way down the directory, so you'll hear from me soon. See y'all next week.